think there are some misconceptions about spending time alone. During the past few years, I kind of regained my access and my joy in solitude. And I think nowadays this is a very controversial thing because we're in this time where, like the loneliness epidemic, people are spending more time alone involuntarily. They are feeling bad, they are feeling lonely. And then on the other side, a lot of people do choose to, not have kids, to live alone, to be independent. And so they're kind of choosing a life with more solitude. One side of it is, of course, how much do you choose that lifestyle and how much are you forced to spend your time with a lot of people or alone. But then on the other hand, I also think it really, really depends on how we spend our time alone. And actually a few days ago, I had like a mind-blowing moment watching a video of a very small creator that I really like. Her channel is called Charlie Rewilding. I'm gonna link it down below for you, especially the video that I watched about solitude. But she especially talked about the actual definition of solitude. And I'm aware that maybe people define it differently, but what really, really helped me understand what I like so much about solitude is that she said that spending time in solitude does mean spending time without being influenced by like other people's thoughts and what they're saying and their minds. And I think this is also maybe a huge part of this whole loneliness epidemic, that we're spending time alone, but not really in solitude, because we're always this like pseudo connection is there because we're seeing what other people are writing on social media, we're seeing what other people are doing, we're maybe texting with people, we're consuming content from other people, but then in actuality we're just here alone and are isolated a little bit from everyone else. And we don't even have to start talking about how fake social media can be and how it feels to just waste away hours of your day and realizing that you do not even remember what you saw on TikTok. That's not really what I want to talk about today. And I think there's a whole topic of like how to spend time on social media in a way that doesn't harm you, but where you can gain something from it. But I think what's really interesting here is that there's a quality to solitude, or there's a quality to spending time alone. And there's this thing I've been describing for years now in my content, which is like doing nothing. And I was promoting doing nothing and being a bit bored as like this space where you can have ideas, where your mind can calm down, where you can solve your problems, and which just really helps me to de-stress. But now I realize that what I was talking about was solitude. It wasn't necessarily doing nothing, because the examples I had was, yes, like laying on my bed doing nothing. But what I also said was like taking a shower and having time to think there, or these moments of just riding on my bike and having this time to think. And what I realized is that these are the times where it's kind of impossible to take out your phone and consume thoughts of other people. And the same goes for like swimming. Usually when I was swimming, that made me feel amazing. And I didn't really realize which parts of it were. Like, yes, moving my body. Yes, like cold exposure is supposed to be really like good for happiness hormones and just feel good. And also it's pretty, right? Swimming in a lake and maybe blue sky above you and everything. But I think a crucial part of it was also doing it alone, being in solitude. And that's especially also true because I realized that I did enjoy trips to the lake alone more sometimes than when I would go with other people. Now, as I said before, I think it's all about a balance, but I'm living with my family, and I think many people that do live with their family know that if you live with other people, then you're just seeing other people all the time. And especially if you're also living with kids and have this kind of family everyday life of taking meals together and speaking about your day. And that's all amazing, but it kind of doesn't really leave that much time to be alone and be in solitude, because there's always something you can do for your family. There's always something you're asked from family members. There's just always this buzzing background noise of family life. And now we're at the point of the video where I just want to kind of share the benefits or the good things I've experienced, that my ode to solitude in a way. Like, why do I think that solitude is so important, and how are we misunderstanding solitude in our society nowadays? So a very obvious benefit of spending time alone and in solitude is, of course, that I can just listen to my wishes and needs and do exactly what I want to do. Like, I do not have to make compromises with anyone. I can just do what I want. If I spend time alone at home, it means I can eat when I eat. I can cook what I want to cook. If I'm outside doing something, I can, go home when I want. I can stay longer. I can stay shorter. I can go somewhere else. While, of course, I do acknowledge that sometimes it's hard knowing what we want. But I think it's a great practice to just cater to my needs sometimes and not having to think about anyone else. And this also kind of influences this next point, which is, for me, it often feels like it's easier to have very happy moments by myself. Now, that can sound super wrong, and I'm so grateful for the people I have around me, and they are like responsible for a lot of happy moments that I have. But maybe it's just a different kind of happy moments that I can experience by myself. And there, it's a lot of it is like the lack of thinking if the other person is happy, and thinking that we have to find an agreement and do things that we both like and things like that. It's just like, I'm at peace. Nothing is coming at me. No words, no thoughts, no pictures from anyone else. It's just me. For me, that mostly also means it's just me outside in nature. And that's like blissful. I love it. I love to just be me. Just exist somewhere without the constant like battle between me and other people. Which usually is not like a conflict, but it still occupies some of my thoughts and influences my feelings. I think that is what it is. But let me know if you understand what I mean. And then another thing that I have underestimated for such a long time is less is more. Also when it comes to how we spend our time. And I recently made a podcast episode on Patreon about this topic, and Patreon is always linked down below. And if you want to become a patron, that would be amazing. I would love to have you there. But in short, like the episode is 20 minutes, and here I'm going to talk about it for a minute or two. I think we sometimes think about this like less is more when it comes to stuff, especially talking about minimalism, thinking about minimalism, living a minimalist life. But how we spend our time, it really applies too, because I think in this society, we are asked to be as productive as possible, to stuff as many things into our life and time as possible, and definitely to use our time wisely. But I think sometimes the most productive and best thing we could do is doing nothing and spend it in solitude. Like going back to this comparison of doing nothing and spending time in solitude, because I think it's actually the solitude part that's important. So putting away my phone, even though I think like I can either listen to this podcast or I'm like behind more, so I just missed out on listening to this podcast. What we do not realize is that sometimes we can gain more from not consuming anything, from not even learning anything. Sometimes the best thing to do would be spend time in solitude. Because when we're constantly putting ourselves in front of screens or listen to things and just consume things, it's sometimes very hard to even hear our own thoughts, to even be aware of how we're actually doing right now. And to even make it a bit more philosophical, I think here it makes sense to kind of think about our lives and existence in general. Like, how should just existing and being ourselves not be enough? Like, how should it not be worth our time to experience life from our perspective. Like, why should it be more productive to always consume things of other people? And now, as I said before, yes, collaboration between people and families, and it's all very important. And I think we do need some social interaction to be happy. But on the other hand, I think we are lacking quality time spent alone very much. Like, we lack solitude. We're alone. We're even lonely. But we're not really using the powers of solitude. And I think, at least for me, it has helped me so much, and I hope by maybe implementing a bit more of it in the future, it will help me even more to self-acceptance, to peace with myself, to have the space to be creative, to have the space to learn more about myself, about my interests, about what I want to pursue next, and to just be alive, like to just live. I want to live my life. I do not want to live in snippets of other people's lives and thoughts. I think we also need some time and space for ourselves. And now, what are the moments? Like, how can I sometimes even trick myself into solitude? Because, as I said before, I think it's hard. I think nowadays there's so much around us, and with the internet it's even harder because we're always connected to everyone, which does not make us not feel lonely. So when can I experience these times of solitude, and how can I maybe widen these pockets a bit more to spend more time, more quality time, to have, to just accept my life as it is a bit more sometimes maybe. I've mentioned a few things before. It's like being in the shower, because I don't know, I don't listen to music and I can't have my phone with me in the shower. It's when I'm riding my bike. And I remember even as a kid when I was like going to school and coming home from school on my bike, that these were times that were so crucial to kind of sorting out my thoughts and regulating my feelings and everything. And so I'm really enjoying my rides to my social workplace and back from there. Because I have more of this time riding my bike again. And then when I'm swimming, right now it's so cold that I'm not really spending a lot of time swimming, because usually I'm making like a small lap coming out and then maybe going for a second and third lap, but I'm not really spending time in the water while swimming. And I think you can see that these are all these moments where I'm tricking myself into spending time alone in solitude, because it's not really possible to have my phone with me. But then on the other hand, since I do not like track my steps anymore with my phone, I do make a conscious effort to leave it at my desk, for example, and not always take it with me to the toilet, to the kitchen, whatever. And I think after realizing this power of solitude, after realizing that I think I can gain a lot from it, and after realizing also that I enjoy spending time in solitude so much, I do just want to try to, leave my phone in the pocket when I have it with me, go outside more, going on walks alone, spending time alone at home and not always also listening to podcasts, watching a TV show or something like that. And I think there's another time where I really enjoy my solitude, but that's kind of vanishing out of my life, and that's decluttering. So when I'm sitting there with my belongings, thinking about whether or not I should keep something and like kind of going through my stuff one by one, I think this is a great experience of solitude as well, because I'm really focusing on me and how I feel about things. And that is, for me, often an environment of a lot of like peace and focus. And it gives me a lot, but I'm not doing it very much because it doesn't really make sense anymore, because I've decluttered all of my life and there's nothing left to declutter that I really want to declutter. But it's just another tip that when you're on a minimalism journey, maybe intentionally decluttering without listening to music, without listening to podcasts, without watching a show, and just focusing on you and your stuff might be a good idea as well. To wrap this up, I do want to say that I think it's about balance as always. I do not want to become a hermit that spends all of her time alone, because I do think other people are important parts of my life, and I do gain so much from listening to other people, from watching other people, from reading other people's thoughts. But I think in today's world, oftentimes it's not really balanced. And while we are like consuming other people's thoughts, sometimes without focus, we definitely have not enough time to just be with ourselves sometimes, to know our thoughts and feelings and needs. Let me know what you think about this topic, and let me know if you love spending time alone, if you struggle with it, if you spend a lot of that time like really in solitude, or how much you also do consume thoughts and everything like from other people. Which, as I said, I think it's about the balance, and there's no right or wrong, and you just have to find a way that makes you feel good. Thank you so much for watching, and I do want to link a video here that you can check out now, and it's getting really dark. But thank you to everyone who's supporting me on Patreon. That really means a lot to me. But also thank you if you've just watched until now, because that is also very helpful for this YouTube channel. I hope to see you in my next video, or there. Goodbye.